Hi, I am going to be tasting the 2019 vintage of the Castello di Neive Barbaresco. This is from Piedmont in Italy. This is a region in the northwest, kind of between the Alps and the sea. And this is 100% Nebbiolo. Nebbiolo is the variety. It actually comes from the Italian word nebbia, which means fog. And that's because fog is a dominant feature in the region. It extends the hang time of the grapes on the vine by cooling it down, which allows sort of the full flavor development in these grapes to come to fruition. And it's especially important with Nebbiolo because Nebbiolo is a late ripening variety. And in fact, in this region, the vines are really planted on hillsides that can kind of capture the sunlight in order to allow them to adequately ripen. Legend has it that way back in the day when people were planting vineyards for Nebbiolo, they would wait and they'd see where on the hillside the snow melted first. And then that's where they would plant the Nebbiolo because they really want to capture the sunlight. And in fact, in the region, it's prohibited to plant on vineyards that are only facing to the north because it won't allow for that ripeness that we're looking for. So Nebbiolo is also the grape in Barolo. Now we're tasting Barbaresco. These are very close by regions, but they tend to have a bit of a difference in the glass. Barolo tends to be a bit more muscular, powerful, while we think of Barbaresco as being somewhat more elegant and nuanced, and in some cases can be ready to drink a little bit earlier, but it's a very complex variety, so I really want to dig into this glass now. So you can probably notice right off the bat that it's light in color. I can see right through this. If I had a newspaper underneath my glass, I could read it. And that's typical for Nebbiolo. It tends to be a little bit sort of more garnet in color, where a lot of red wines tend to be more ruby in color and pretty pale. And I will say, even for Nebbiolo, this is a fairly pale example. This is from a fantastic vintage. The 19 vintage is it's very youthful. You certainly could age this wine for a long time, but it's been hailed as a vintage that you could drink right now and be very, very happy. So if we swirl it around, let's stick our nose in the glass. I'm using an all-purpose glass today for all my tastings, but I actually really like to drink Barbaresco sometimes out of a burgundy glass because it's so perfumed. And that's the first thing I'm noticing when I put my nose in this, is that it's got this sort of, exotic spice, orange peel, leather, tar, roses, sort of a tart cherry note to it, strawberry for sure, but it has lots to say, and I haven't even tasted it yet. So let's taste this together. Really allow it, always I say this when tasting wines, which is to let it touch every corner of your palate and then notice what you're feeling. But I'm gonna say really do that with this wine because Nebbiolo has quite a lot to say on the palate as well. Yes, it does. So the first thing I notice is my mouth is very dry. That's the tannin. Nebbiolo has very high tannins, also has a high acidity. So at the same time, what's happening in my palate, so my mouth is watering, and at the same time, my tongue feels dry. So that's the tannins and the acid. It's fairly light in body. I'm getting a lot of the same, for Nebbiolo, I should say, which tends to have a fuller body, but this is a very elegant expression of Nebbiolo, of Barbaresco. A lot of those same flavors in the palate, cherry, strawberry, kind of that sort of a little bit of an earthiness to it, and just really bright. So at the Surf Club, Michel Couvreux, he likes to pair this with eggplant parmesan. And while that might be sort of untraditional, I usually think of Barbaresco as pairing really well with things like truffles. He actually really likes the sort of delicacy and nuance of this with that bright acidity and the tannins that can cut through the richness and the sort of earthiness of the eggplant parmesan. I really need to fly there to try that. Sounds delicious.